ovations and shouts on the side of Vitality because they are 2-1 up over H2K and are on match point to make it to the semi-finals. We'll have to see if H2K can fight back, but let's start by talking about what happened in that Game 3. It was almost a carbon copy of Game 2. Strong Vitality early into a Baron throw. Luckily for Vitality, they won a game in the end. So let's start at the top. Gilius had, again, a very good early game with Vitality. He's really been crushing it.
Yeah, today he's showing a lot of performance with his passing and finding the lead for this team. And this is what Vitality need to win this series. And right now he's doing this job.
Right. And that is, why do you think it's gone the same every single game? Vitality get ahead early and H2K don't really do anything.
Yeah, well, Vitality is putting a lot of effort in drafting strong early game. We see the Talia, we see Leona, Caitlyn, and they're playing it well. They get mid push, they roam 4 bot, they get the mid tower, they get the bot tower. They're playing the first 15 minutes of the game, 20 minutes of the game as they should. They get 4-5k gold lead. And then we get into the mid game, and then it starts getting crazy.
Then we get into the mid game. Once again, we saw a Baron getting stolen away from them. Not particularly stolen away in this case. It wasn't the right setup. We'll take a look at that after this, because it's all good and well if you keep having these good early games, but why does it keep faltering for Vitality in the crucial moments around Baron, Joko?
I don't know, it seems like right now they're having lack of setup naturals. We can see that they are not putting the ward or are playing pressure over the Nash, and this is what they need to fix for the next games, because it can cause them games. We saw them the previous one, and they don't want to go into 50-50 situation, so I believe they should just control things and go a bit slower.
And this was really a different instance. It wasn't that it got stolen away from them, but it's almost like their decision-making is scared around the Baron.
Yeah, I mean, in this game, they have so many tools to actually deny H2K by getting into the pit. They have the Talia wall, they have Cyan engaged, Leona ultimate, Sejuani ultimate. They can just throw them at them and actually finish the Baron. But in this case, they seemed very, very scared to actually even go for the finish. So they just constantly looking for turn where they actually could finish. So I think they need a little bit more confidence around the Baron calls. It's a bit sad for Vitality, honestly, because they're in the position to win the game all the time, but it feels like they're just thinking too much or not being decisive when it matters.
Well, luckily for them, as we saw at the end of that replay, they managed to undo the curse, kind of, because they got a Baron for their own.
Yeah, so I mean, in the end, they end up winning the game and they're happy, obviously, but they need to actually look into how are they gonna finish the games, because right now, I see Vitality as the better team on the Rift right now. They're winning every early game, they get the leads, they just can't close it out properly, and that's a huge problem, obviously.
Are you as worried about Vitality's mid game?
Yeah, I think so too, like the same, I agree. That early games are showing a lot of good things, they are applying pressure, but when it comes to mid games, they seems a bit lost and a bit confused. And late games are okay, but yeah, it's all about natural setups. Like they need to keep the lead and not throw it away. Well,
we'll see what they do in Game 4. They are a match point, so they do have the mental edge in that H2K absolutely needs to win. And for H2K, the guy that we've been talking about non-stop, does it again in this game. Even though they don't win, Sheriff is just so scary for Vitality. We saw it in the early game. They put a lot of resources into trying to kill him. And even in the late game, he was there again on Tristana, almost killing everyone around Baron. So that Sheriff guy is just incredibly scary.
Yeah, I don't think he could have done much more in this game, honestly. A lot of they got back in the game, but they were doing some very interesting decisions around the last Baron. I hope we get to show it a little bit later, but both Smitty J and Shook were doing some questionable stuff. But let's just say that he's doing what he can do to carry his team, but right now it's just not enough.
And I think it's very interesting for Sheriff. He is a rookie, Joko, but he seems to be one of those players that what we say about the great players or the greatest AD carries is that even if you try and shut him down, and even if you kill them early, he still seems to find an opening.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we forgot to mention that he went for the cleans for the second time. On Jhin, you can be like, okay, there is not really like movement and possibility to go the way, but with Trist, you have the jump, and still go for the cleans, and I think it was really smart from him, because he ended up by doing practically whatever he can, and you don't need to buy this QSS as well and get this extra item, and like you say, he's finding good opening, and maybe he's a new Reckless.
Yeah, maybe he is a new Reckless. Sheriff, the guy we're looking at for H2K. Then on the side of Vitality, the guy we got to be looking at, even though the mid laner is doing well, even though Mini Truthback is doing well, it is Gilius, because we can only assume that he is the guy that has a bit of a trauma around Baron.
Yeah,
Who wants to jump in?
as a jungler, I'm pretty sure Joko knows as well. Like, if you start losing smite battles, it kind of hurts you a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
It hurts you inside, deep inside. And for Gilio specifically, like, getting the last burn for his team just must feel amazing.
It must feel amazing for him. They're on a high Vitality. So, Joko, do Vitality close it out in the next game, and why?
I think, like you said, they broke the curse, and it will give a lot of confidence from Julius, because we know that he's not very confident with Nash, and right now he's really good in early games, and he needs to stick to these plans and believe into his teammates like he's doing right now. And yeah, I'm pretty sure it will be a stomp next game.
I'm looking a lot on H2K for this series, because I feel like they should be able to do more in the game, especially in the early game. They're just kind of giving it to Vitality, and right now it's on Vitality to lose the game rather than H2K to win the game, I feel like.
But who's winning?
I mean, Vitality is 2-1, so what do you want me to say?
I mean, I want you to say your predictions,
Yeah,
Cold.
where is your prediction?
I mean, so
Still
according to the
H2K?
plan, Vitality is 2-1. They're going to win the early game, and then they're going to lose the mid game, and then we will end up H2K winning 3-2.
And then we have Silver Scrapes. That would be
Yeah.
great, but it is all in Vitality's hands to secure a spot in the semifinals as they're looking to take down H2K in Game 4.
Thank you, Shox. Game 4, Deficio. 2-1 in favor of Vitality. On the edge of winning the series. Match point for these guys.
Yeah, last game I felt like both teams won and lost multiple times. It felt like, oh, they got the early game again, it's going to be great. Oh, wait, they're afraid around Baron. Oh, they lose the Baron now. And then H2K at their last play. Even if they all in for it, with all the members and Shook to try and get it, they're still 4v5. And probably just get collapsed on by Vitality. So in the end, Vitality get a super important late game win. And now they need to show us another great early game and show us a clean Baron play, and they can get a 3-1 win.
And H2K, of course, with the side choice this time around, they will choose red side, taking it away from Vitality. Vitality, I feel like they found a working strategy. They're going to keep the Camille off the board. Galio technically up and available so far. The latest has made it into bans.
So H2K want to ban Azir Tam Kench every game so far in this series. I still think this Azir ban really handicaps them when it comes to actually be more, creative the further the series goes, because we got to keep in mind, Vitality are not playing a style that actually favors Azir. They're playing a style that favors early game.
And Galio is up and available, Deficio. It was Vitality's Achilles heel. It's what took them down at the start of their slump. Are they going to take it here?
Oh, first picking that. Sion is still here. Caitlyn is here. Tam Kench is here. That's one that's been banned all series long.
Caitlyn, Galio. H2K have the opportunity. They can take 2 power picks, 1 pick, maybe not considered a power pick anymore, but so good against Vitality specifically.
They can grab Caitlyn for Sheriff if they want it, or Tristana was successful for him in the last game, so there's all the options, but Kate has become kind of the go-to AD carry for almost everyone. And Zac is here. No more Olaf for Shook. He's not been able to do anything early game with it. Now he's grabbing more scaling for himself. And I want to see with Vitality if this is a big shift now, and they're going to pick a carry top. Because when they've played Tam Kench in the past, they've not been playing around the bottom lane aggressively. It's been the Thresh picks more when they go for that style, and then it's been more about Kabushot being on a carry. But I think putting him on a tank has been fine, and relying on mini Truex and H2K.
Sejuani coming in, Gilead sticking with it. Has been a good pick for starting off fights. Interesting to see, though. You're right. Vitality doesn't have the engage option for the support role anymore. No Leona, no Thresh.
And don't have the same kind of potential lane bully bot lane or setup for a bunch of bot lane dives. Tam Kench does not offer the same aggressiveness in that case. We'll see what they decide to lock in for mini Truex. Seems to be Tristana, which is, again, it's perfectly fine to just play as a farm lane here for your Vitality. And again, we might see more of a focus on mid and top then in the early game. Sion is still available here. H2K can grab it, flex it, or that Galio you talked about, which on 8.4 has been banned in almost every single game.
A5, still quite popular for Vitality to take away. Of course, Morgana locked in here. The Morgana Caitlyn very strong in both EU and NA. EU showing it as a solid answer to the Xayah Rakan. We're going to have to see how it does against the Tristana Tom Kench. Double range champions could just have pressure in the early game. Will be nice for H2K to finally have an advantage in terms of early laning phase.
They also do get last pick. Most likely for Selfie. The Talia pick, it's been good for Jizuke, but only locked in on red side when he knew, okay, they can't counterpick me with the likes of Cassidy. In this case, H2K do remove it. Now, one thing H2K have done a lot on red side is they grab Orianna as the first pick when you go into the second phase. and then they last pick for Smitty J a potential carry. And by banning Talia, they actually set up for that potential Orianna, because otherwise Smitty J, or sorry, not the Smitty J, but Selfie couldn't actually counter pick if he's already shown the Orianna.
And the Galio taken off the board is good news for Vitality. They've struggled to play against it. Shuts down a lot of their early aggression, makes it a lot more difficult to calculate exactly how much damage you're going to need to go for those all-ins.
See what next ban is, and if they just lock in that Orianna. Smitty J, of course, lost Camille after 2 games. Cyan is still open in the draft. Been a very valuable pick for Caposhot. Was the guy who initiated the early fights last game that actually started that snowball for Vitality specifically.
And if Vitality don't pick it here, H2K could potentially use it as a flex, giving themselves the luxury of essentially counter-picking both lanes, potentially, depending on what Vitality want to go for.
Last time on blue side, Vitality showed us the Cassiopeia blind pick. They don't lock it in this time around. It is on H2K now to decide. Do they want to grab a tank top? In this case, Cyan will be the one, because you can still flex him. Or do they want to just take Orianna and wait completely with the last pick for Smitty J? I think Cyan makes a lot of sense just to get due to the flex. Also deny that from Caposhot. A lot of engage on the side of H2K.
You can see both teams know the importance of this game. They're taking their time in this pick and ban phase, almost letting every single one run out. Cyan locked in, that's the flex, you talk about it, and there's a lot of engage on the side of H2K. Perfect for what they want to do. The Orianna would be a nice fit here if they try to go for it. What are Vitality going to respond with?
Still need a blind pick for him. Vladimir coming in, most likely top lane. Zoe is something that I know Jizuka has been playing a lot in solo queue, which was of course buffed on this patch here. But I want to see what he wants to play in that mid lane. It might, okay, it's going to be Vladimir mid.
Interesting. You can see Vitality not quite as comfortable drafting on the blue side. Not quite as comfortable picking into this. Are they going to go for it? Zoe getting readjusted.
I still think if they want just
Promise Q is absolutely trolling right now.
strong team fight for H2K. Again, they always love the Orianna, but Kassadin for Selfie. We've seen some insane plays from him, especially perfectly utilizing the old flash combo to burst someone very quickly in a fight, and it is the Kassadin locked in against this Vladimir here. Selfie confident he won't get punished hard enough in the early game, and then suddenly you get this setup where you have Sign in one side lane who can push, you have Kassadin in the other one who you can't stop in the 1v1, and you have this Kate Morgana lane that has been so good for a lot of teams in Europe.
And Deficio, this is does not feel 100% like a 1-3-1 anymore. This feels a lot more like both of these teams want to fight each other.
I mean, it's definitely going to be a lot of team fights naturally in this game here, but Vitality, it's a lot different from what we've seen in the other games. They don't have that super strong, hard-winning bot lane they can just set up tower dives with. They don't have Jizuka absolutely being able to stomp the mid lane completely and then start roaming everywhere. It's going to be a lot slower for Vitality. It's a lot more scaling on their side. And then we start going into towards the late game where, I mean, based on the last game, it can be basically anyone's game.
Absolutely the case, Deficio. And I don't know about you, I'm just feeling the tension right now. Both these teams know that they have to pull out a win here. Vitality do not want to let it go to a Game 5. H2K need to get that confidence back in their late game execution.
I have to see what happens. Selfie finally getting his Kassadin.
As we load onto the Rift, let's hear what Yamato Cannon has to say about that draft before the game.
Thank you very much, Dracos. I am joined by Yamato Cannon. Now, I want to talk about how you change your team's mentality in games, because last game we saw Gilius and Vitality very scared to play around the Baron. What have you talked to them about in the break that might move them into this next game?
So the main thing is, like, if we just set up Nashor well the second game, then the game was over. We had the big advantage. Third game, I think we did a lot better, but we just didn't expect the Braum to basically catch the Talia wall, and that put us in a disadvantage, and we just were in a position where Olaf could steal, and 50-50s are not in our favor most of the time. So I feel like we're improving. If we fix up the Nash, I think we should be able to wrap up the series, because our early game is looking far better than theirs.
Well, good luck with it. We're going to hand back straight on into the action. Dracos, take it away.
Thank you very much, Medic. Of course, pressure mounting for both sides. Yamato. 50-50 is not in their favor. Historically has been the case, although Gilius did pull it through in the previous game.
He did, and that was a big one for him. If that means suddenly they get a 3-1 win here, he's going to look back at that moment. It's a big turning point for him.
And really, Deficio, there's so much I'm excited about in this game. Both Selfie on the Kassadin is interesting to me. Both AD carries getting these kind of scaling hyper carry options. H2K and the Vladimir, a bit new.
It's just, again, Vitality is stepping away from having to, or looking towards early snowball a lot and just opting into very, very strong late game team fighting on their side. They still have the tools with the Shen ult, but it's different forcing plays when it's Tahm Kench support on your side and not Leona, as we saw in the last one. It's honestly more on H2K's bottom lane with the Cade Morgana here, and then later on, we get that 1-3-1 setup with Selfie on a Kassadin going to the side lane. So it's gonna be interesting to see. There's again a bunch of scaling on both sides, but more early game options on H2K for once.
And we've seen what happens if we get to the late game. Both of these AD carries absolutely terrifying. If they get the opportunity to hit, you can see though, Sheriff quite comfortable in this matchup.
Double range against melee support on their side, but normally we would say, okay, H2K late game should have the advantage over Vitality, but as I said before here, based on that last game, we've very clearly seen that anything can happen in this series. So Vitality opting into a different kind of strategy does make sense if they actually feel like, okay, we can definitely beat these guys late game.
And for now, Cabo beating on Smitty J in the top lane. Luckily he has the Corrupting Potion, so we'll be able to heal back up, but taking advantage of Shen's early strength against tanks.
And that's one of the big things we can still see here. H2K can push in his lane, and when he gets level 6, and the same for Shen, you can be really aggressive in how you're playing as a Vladimir. Perfect at tower diving, get the Shen ulti with you, and force big plays. So H2K can still go to the bottom lane, like he's done on the Talia, like we saw on the Cassiopeia, but it's just not required of him in this game.
This is a great opportunity. Shook going for the greedy jungle clear where you try to start 2 camps. It means Gilius can just start to walk in, look for the 3rd hit there, stuns up. Not going to proc the passive, but will force Shook out of the jungle.
Yeah, Shook is very low, and now H2K is here.
Cassadin going to try to come and help, but really can't. He's stuck in the mid lane.
H2K's bot lane can move. They are kind of hovering around, but it sucks for them to have to leave the lane. They really just want to continue pushing if they could, but now the jungle is behind them, so they're kind of forced to stay.
Ooh. Fatty hitbox. Jack Troll! Airy, the ultimate MVP for Promise Q there, does manage to bring it home.
The binding hitbox. Also in the running for MVP.
Yeah.
In this one, Promise Q lands it. Sheriff instantly just kills Jack Troll, and early kill for H2K. And
not something we see when we normally watch H2K play.
they're kind of stuck in a tough spot because they want to go up to the blue buff, the hitbox. Oh, gets just the butt.
He's got a big butt, guys. It's not his fault.
Big booty,
He's a
not coming in
catfish.
handy right there for Jack Troll.
Just a shame, man. Shame for Jack Troll. 48 deaths, most in the regular season for Jack Troll. Dying in the lane, definitely not what they wanted. Already a lane that they're going to struggle in. May need some more support for Gilius. It did seem kind of nice for them for a moment when Gilius was pulling their attention away.
Oh, now he's ganking them.
I don't think that's going to work out for Gio.
That's not how you gank.
No, I mean, that's how you gank. I just don't know if that's a good gank.
Well, he successfully got level 3.
H2K successfully got level 4, though, so still a little bit difficult. And, of course, Trap's put in that spot between the wall and the tower, so sort of difficult to play this lane out comfortably.
Meanwhile, in the mid lane, H2K, as we always see against Kassadin lanes, you're just pushing him on the turret, trying to deny as many early CS as possible. So if he can use TP back to lane on his first back, Gilius invading in, knowing that his jungler can move first. So this is one thing I really think Vitality always manage to do well, is when H2K pushes, Gilius is very good at being aggressive in the enemy jungle and trying to deny a little bit more, because they do have great synergy between them. Remember, binding lands, trap connects from Sheriff, and there's a ton of poke damage. Luckily, Devour is there from Tahm Kench.
Unless he gets hit, which in case we see what happens.
Very true.
Cannot save himself, as has been kind of the weakness for Jack Troll in the past on this champion. Selfie, though, does get that first back.
I still think a potential buff for Tahm Kench is going to be Self-Devour.
Okay, we have a minute here, as it is a slower early game. Run me through that one, Deficio. How does that work?
I'm not sure. In League of Legends, anything can work, I feel like.
Are you just you're just describing Zonya's hourglass, by the way?
Yeah, he just eats himself and takes no damage.
All right, I'll let you explain that one at home. Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Let us know how that works. Give us your best artist depiction.
Shook around the mid lane, trying to get revenge. Sadly for him, there's no camps to kill.
And this is good, because Shook normally has been having the farm lead in this matchup, as Olaf has been a lot more proactive in clearing. It's actually Gilius who has suffered a lot in CS. But now this looks a little bit better.
Just abusing their mid lane control. Gilius gets a blue buff, took away his Raptor, so Shook will be late when it comes to level 6. Gilius doing a great job so far, keeping the enemy jungler down, and kind of fits the tone of the game here that Shook is not able to get a lot in the early game. H2K once again have a ton of focus on just scaling and a little bit more focus on trying to win bot lane.
Yeah, now that level 6 is coming for Selfie, definitely going to be more of a threat. But once again, bot lane remains really important. And this start that H2K have been able to get for themselves is going to make it a lot harder for Vitality to set it up for success in the way that it has previously. You can see Mini Trupax winning the lane pretty confidently in the past. And in the KDA department. Sheriff dying a lot, unfortunately, in their first loss.
And Trupax has had a good performance, and Vitality put a lot of focus on him in the draft. Him doing well in the laning phase, but also been able to execute in fights. So he's definitely done his job against Sheriff, and H2K are trying to see if they can get their star AD carry.
And really good for Vitality that Mini Trupax has been stepping up. Of course, Sheriff was supposed to be the strongest point on this team for H2K. Still probably is, although debatable with Selfie on the cast. But Mini Trupax matching the carry potential here is exactly what Vitality need. We've been trying to trade back the reduced magic damage that Cassin just has innately. Very difficult for this Vladimir to punish, and of course no completed items, no completed magic penetration of his own. Makes it quite difficult.
A lot of damage in the bottom lane. We could look for a potential play where Caposhot holds down. SmittyJ's TP is on cooldown. Obviously when the next one is ready, you should just save it for that potential play, because as long as H2K can keep pushing... Oh, Jacktroll, I want to eat him.
That's 2 stacks.
But ideally for H2K, nothing happens bot and they eventually get the turret. Vitality needs to make a play to stop that, where they actually go to the bot lane and prevent that from happening. There's a ward behind that can be used, but both TPs are on cooldown, so they have to just rely on the Shen ult and a potential Gilius gank.
Need Trupax with enough mana though. Bring it home. Looks like he's packing the mana flow band as well, make it a little bit easier to keep up in this lane.
Trying his best to harass here. Gilius hovering around bottom side. This could be the play for them. Caposhot's movement is going to be important. He needs to step away from SmittyJ in time so it doesn't get interrupted. Then they can go for the plays. Gilius around. Looking also at the blue buff. This time Selfie can fight back a little bit more because of level 6 or 7.
Wants to take this one away. Gilius knows it's going down. Looks like they're going to set their sights to the mid lane push instead. Gilius now waiting in that exact spot for Cassie to come over the wall. Does find it, but of course Selfie knew this was coming. 3 stacks. Will find 4 and connect the stun, but not going to be able to break the permafrost there for the extra damage.
So that's a bit of damage on Selfie, giving Vitality control around mid. Shook is not there to help.
Promiscuous flash forward, immediately going to leap out. Binding will connect onto Jacktroll. Damage not going to come through. Maybe. Build over Peacemaker. Ulti from Sheriff not up and available. Stun does manage to come in, but there's Shook immediately, but he leaps into the Vladimir ult. That's not what he wanted. Unstoppable. Looks like he will survive in the end.
Good control around the mid lane for Vitality. Bot lane, Sheriff did not want to flash for the last hit. Probably knowing that a Shen ulti could have been ready and he would have wasted a summoner. But they do get this turret. That's exactly what they wanted. We see how Vitality trying to respond by getting the mid lane. There was an opening for them to go bot instead of trying to dive a Selfie and actually stop this push from happening. But they tried to go for the all-in mid. They didn't get the kills. Still, they got a ton of damage on it. SmittyJ is forced to go down and hold the wave.
But H2K is still playing quite nicely. 27 CS advantage for Sheriff on the bottom side. You saw earlier that it was always Mini Trupax coming out on top of the CS department. This game, a different story after the early advantage they got. The pressure that Morgana and Kate are putting down right now is just a lot for Vitality to deal with. And if they stop putting attention mid lane, Selfie just gets to do whatever he wants. So it's a difficult spot for the Vitality lineup.
Yeah, the first big time Kench getting punished when it comes to the laning phase. I think Vitality felt like they couldn't draft a strong early game duo lane if Tahm Kench was still available, so H2K could grab it. And Vitality also just loves Tahm Kench in general, because in the mid game they use him sitting mid, ulting towards sides. But now look at his play here. No turret to defend them. 4v2. Shen ult.
Jacktroll, Mini Trupax, gonna get pulled back. Shen ult is on the way in, but I don't know if they can turn this one back. There's just too much damage coming through. Shen is here, but it might not be enough. So is the Scion, the flash out. Vitality, 3 members here, but 2 kills picked up for H2K. Beautiful play, but what is the bottom lane doing?
The moment they see Mini Trupax and Jacktroll push after H2K's bot lane had already returned, they knew there was a chance to move down. Good roam from them. They get the kill onto Kassadin. And also, Shen ulti is now on cooldown, plus the TP. Caposhot instantly TP tough. Right after this happened, So H2K got multiple globals, plus early kills. Gilius is around Drake.
And they've started with the lane swap. And H2K are supposed to be the team that waits and scales every single game, but this is the game where they find an early game advantage.
Oh, there's no smite. Nice binding though, stopping Gilius from getting close.
Gilius gonna still push in. Feels pretty comfortable going in here, but Deficio, this is disastrous.
Yeah, so mini Trupex and Jack Troll need to respect the fact that they don't have mid push, and the enemy dual lane has already come back to lane. They are being greedy, maybe hoping they can ult out with Jack Troll to get away, but there is no turret for now to save them. And this Shen ult, while of course it needs to come down to try and save them, ends up being just a waste. And actually ends up costing Cavalshot both his summoners and a very, very long cooldown ulti in the early game. Big play for H2K. Vitality looking to punish Smitty J.
Smitty J sitting under the tower. 4 stacks gonna pop him up. Max health damage on top of everything else, gonna burn him down. Zombie damage coming through. Mini Trupax will grab the kill.
Good turn here. Both teams are trying to not cross-map each other. Bot lane for Vitality, top lane for H2K. Riftel is also alive. They can start it while they give up this bot lane turret. No Drake, because it was just taken before.
You gotta give credit to Vitality. Always trying to make something happen, no matter what the position is in the game. We'll break this one down, try to even up the gold, but a Rift Herald and a top lane tower means H2K definitely making out like bandits in this exchange.
Yeah, they're losing a lot on this one. With the Rift Herald also drops over to H2K. I 100% agree in going for the tower dive. Makes a lot of sense for them, but because of that early lane swap, already putting Sheriff top for quite a while, it's given him enough time to set up the wave and secure 2 objectives for H2K.
Jizuke unfortunately going to struggle more and more in this lane as magic resistance starts to come in.
Just from before here, Smitty J fighting Gilius for the Grump. Oh, he got it.
Hits it.
And then he's like, I can do everything.
Nobody steals
I'm
Grump from
invincible!
Gilius.
And then 3 people kill him.
Freeze frame. And this is the moment.
Don't get too confident, even though you steal a Grump. To be fair though, him actually buying extra time bot lane might be what actually makes, or guarantees that H2K can get Rift Herald as well.
Because H2K still have a 2K gold lead and a Rift Herald, which is arguably worth at least 1,000 gold if you use it well. And you can break a tower.
Fun fact, they've not used it well this series.
That's very true. There was the one on the bottom lane, there was the one on the top lane.
They do have a chance now, but they actually do have push, especially around the Kate Morgana lane. Successful so far for Sheriff and Promise Q. While you talk about how it's going to be harder for Jizuke to trade against the Cassidy, that's true. But Jizuke's impact in a team fight can be so huge on this Vladimir. Vitality knew they weren't drafting for the early game this time. They knew it would be rough around bottom side. As long as they can keep scaling on Jizuke and Ming Trubex, then they, of course, can do something in late game fights. But them being behind, it's not something we see often for Vitality. And we have to see if H2K can cleanly set up Baron. I think they've actually been pretty decent at that during the split when they finally got the leads in the games. It's just been rare they've actually been winning the early game. I think it's happened twice.
And now, of course, we see the tank matchup that Couple used to have pressure, not quite the case anymore. Binding does connect onto mini Trupax. Promise Q really hitting these left and right. Most it's been onto Jack Troll, but H2K still debating what exactly they want to do with this Rift Herald. They got multiple members in the mid lane. May look for the dive onto Jizuke. Definitely tough to dive to Vladimir, but Proto Belt has been used, and Smitty J getting the 1v1 here. Rift Herald used, ulti does come in. Looks like Cavalshot might just drop down. Decimating Smash going to do a lot of damage, and he manages to get the 1v1 in the tank fight. Now they're trying to take out Rift Herald in the mid lane, but big advantage over to the Scion.
Well played by Smitty J, and Cavalshot not going to be happy with that one. In tank v tank matchups, you should never be in a situation where you can actually die 1v1.
And has gone the Tiamat to keep up with the wave clear, so he has no tanky stats himself.
So he ends up dying. Rift Herald did get a good charge in mid. Sugar's around as well. Remember, if they go for anything, Tom Kench can ult in. Actually, no, it was just used by Jack Troll before. So now, they can siege.
They just look for the setup. Eyes on Shook. He's going to try to go in. The binding has come through. Jack Troll's going to try to bring it home. Shook now empowered by the Crimson Rush. Will be able to clear out the wave. Protobelt there to make sure they can't dive him yet, but they're definitely losing out here in the pressure war.
Some debates around Zac versus Tom Kench. How effective is the Zac when he jumps in and he wants a carry? He can't get it because Tom Kench can try and deny it. Zac does have the advantage that he can just pull the Tom Kench. And if Tom Kench devours a target that Zac jumps towards, and you pull back Tom Kench while the target is still in his belly,
call that a twofer.
There you go. You get both of them into your team. So Zac actually does have a lot of tools against a champion like Tom Kench, who typically denies a lot of engage. Because you can AoE pull back people, you can still play around it if you're shook. And this game, he didn't have to do anything early game. It wasn't like the Olaf where he would get outscaled in the jungle matchup. Now he's on tank v tank.
And Zach, just such a great engage option. You can see how consistently... It's not the Sejuani where you're kind of linked to this ultimate. You can, as long as you have Elastic Slingshot up, you are constantly threatening that engage.
Largest goal lead at 15 minutes for H2K.
It's a pretty good sign.
It's a lot of scaling on Vitality's side. It is Sheriff and Promiscu doing their job in the bottom lane, and of course Smitty J getting that solo kill. All 3 out of turrets are gone. Second Drake spawning. I think H2K right now a little bit unhappy. When Vitality wins the early game, there's a bunch of Infernal Drakes, and when H2K win it, there's a bunch of Cloud Drakes. It's of course better on this patch, which is still valuable.
Better than Infernal, though, is a bit of a tough argument. Of course, Smitty J, though, not too concerned. There's no Oceans here, so he's not quite as worried. Kappa doing what he can with the taunt, but Smitty J just remains unconcerned. It's so hard for Kappa to actually kill his minion.
And we get this standard Kassadin build now where you rush Water of Ages and then you get a tier after. So the stacking of the tier is very delayed, but it's still gonna hit once you get towards the late game. Bit of damage coming down. Jacktroll will deny the rest, and as we see now, H2K trying to get mid lane control.
Black Shield used. Could be in trouble now. Shenald has come in. Jizuke looking for a way onto the back line. Gonna flash forward onto Sheriff. Gets the ulti down as well. Proto Belt. Sheriff running for his life. Shook gonna be the target instead. However, Jizuke now trying to turn Crimson Rush. Gonna give him the extra movement speed. Sheriff may have overstepped, but he steps right onto the trap. Black Shield now comes in. Jizuke walking away. Crimson Rush goes down. It's locked up. Oh, Sheriff bringing it in. Now the taunt comes back. Kassadin in the middle of the fight. This is exactly what they wanted. Mini Trueback remains untouched, but Smitty J is just so tanky. Decimating smash hits too. Baby. The reset. This is exactly what they need. Sheriff is knocked back. He's still alive. Triple for Kassadin.
That's an ace.
Give him the Quadra, baby. H2K stepping up.
We're not even hit 20 minutes yet, and H2K just got an ace. That looked like a fight that started out of nowhere. Shook jumped in very aggressively. The team left him, but he didn't even die. The passive was there, and suddenly Kassadin shows up behind. Smitty J comes in, and Jizuke tried to 1v2. Almost got onto Sheriff, but the trap plus the binding or the ulti from Promiscu keeps the Vladimir in place. And we could kind of defend Vitality falling down a little bit with this draft. They were still looking to scale. Now, you just got aced. That's a 6K goal lead, and we're not even 20 minutes in.
And Vitality are the team that's supposed to win every early game. Division. H2K is the team that's supposed to wait.
By the way, we have a trend of European Kassadin players in quarterfinals getting a lot of kills.
That's true.
Selfie after this one, he's 5-0. Okay, so look at this. At first, I didn't think there's going to be a fight here, but they're calling that Kassadin is moving, and then Shook is confident he can jump in and buy enough time also with his passive. 5 members instantly shows up. Sheriff is isolated by Jizuke, and here it seems like a free kill onto Shook and nothing else. But because Selfie's here, because Smitty J can TP onto the blobs, then suddenly this fight is in 2 places. Jizuke can't win the 1v2. You will always get snared even though you pull, and then a trap. And after, the tanks are buying so much time, and without Jizuke, he is the strongest member. Selfie gets a free team fight. Oh man, 4 kills.
This is the nightmare.
This is the kind of game where H2K might be able to finish already on the first Baron, and then we get a game 5 where they just stomped Vitality in game 4.
And now they're pushing in. They're just going to try to break an inhibitor. They've got so many tools here. Kassadin's still in the mid lane. Not even 20 minutes. They don't have a Baron buff. They don't need it. They're pushing in anyway, and they're going to break open the inhibitor line. Deficio. This early game from H2K is absolutely nuts.
We have seen H2K win the early game a few times in the LCS. In the start, they didn't know what to do with the lead.
Okay, this is about to be a crazy fight, though.
Okay, now they know what to do.
Trueback needs to run. Promiscu's in the middle of everything. I take it back. No one can start the fight. Gilius may just go down here. Should fall. There's the ulti. He's going to bring it home. Ace in the hole. But now the rest of Vitality are just running scared. Jizuke will make it out. The actual running for his life. He is set to drop down. And Trueback's going to have to flash out. Everything that can go wrong for Vitality in this game has gone wrong. This is a 10K gold lead at 20 minutes.
H2K did their job in the early game. The bot lane especially did what they were supposed to do, but they could not expect to get an ace before 20 minutes. They did not expect to get 4 extra kills on Selfie. And now they're so far ahead that it feels almost impossible for them to lose.
Shenald comes in, but the binding hits.
Can they get over the wall?
Jizuke can't get into the middle of the team. Promiscu, no flash. Buys a bit of time. He's going to be the sacrificial lamb here. 11K, Officio, 11K. And I gotta say, H2K, he felt it. He felt the comeback there. He knew he wouldn't get him back in the game, but he was rushing forward. And yet again, Promise Cube lands the binding, sees the Vlad trying to charge into his backline, just makes it easy.
So far, it has been the cleanest game we've seen from H2K all split long. Second runner-up will be the Schalke win they got in Week 9. The win that actually allowed them to get into playoffs in the first place, where they also won the early game. This one, they win it even harder. Biggest goal lead at 15 minutes, biggest goal lead at 20 minutes. I've never seen their mid laner with this many kills in the early game. And this is just another fight where they've already killed the bot lane. Vitality are trying to get back by making some creative, crazy plays, but at this point, they're so far down, they are not allowed to do anything on the map. And H2K are looking, see if they can use this Baron here to get more inhibs, potentially even finish the entire game if they get another fight. It is tough this early on, but they have 3 full items on Caitlyn against 1.5 on the enemy Tristana.
Officio,
Dracos.
that's very bad.
It's
for the
normally
side of
not
Vitality.
great. No. I guess good news, Selfie, he's not 11-0 yet.
Always looking on the bright side. Bright side, they've also landed on the Promise to You. Downside, Shook is in the middle of their team, and he's looking to keep a fight started. No one's there to follow up. However, H2K has bought a little bit of time. We'll go unstoppable and go right back out. But here comes Selfie. They're just going to leap forward, look for a little bit more, and H2K just making it look easy. They have the gold lead. All that's left is for them to bring it home. Sheriff now on a rampage. It was Vitality who dug their grave, and H2K more than happy to put them in it, more than happy to bring it back for the full 5 games. Officio, Silver Scrapes. Bring it up, play it loud. 22 minutes, 50 seconds, shortest game. H2K with a beautiful win.
We looked at this series and we said this is going to be close. This is going to be a bunch of games back and forth. I did not expect to see H2K get an early game where they just completely stomp Vitality, but everything went in their favor. They got the early game in the bot lane. They suddenly get a team fight at 18 minutes where they get an ace. Like, it became a massive stomp. Great for confidence, great way to bounce back. That being said, this is the last game Vitality gets to play on blue side. For game 5, they will go back to red side. They don't have to first pick a Tahm Kench and draft a scaling comp, because let's just be real. Vitality and scaling comps, not a great combo. Better with the early game.
Absolutely the case, but we've seen what happens when you give Selfie Cassidy in a comfortable laning phase. Even an uncomfortable laning phase, actually. Constantly pressured out, did not matter.
It was just the first game where Vitality didn't have a clear lane to play around early. So it's a little bit harder for them, because they were hovering around mid, but actually killing the Cassidy is hard. We know H2K is going to win the lane. They tried to tower dive him, but then Shook was there, and the one lane they thought they could maybe do something in, again, as I said, it's tough to early tower dive a mid laner, especially a mobile one like Cassidy. So they didn't have any clear lane to snowball easily. And that meant H2K could win the bottom side with Kate Morgana. And now we get this game 5, where by Vitality being on red side, we might see them go back for more early game. They don't have to draft scaling. They can actually try and win, like we saw in the last few games.
I mean, the thing is that I imagine Vitality are similarly caught off guard as I am to see that H2K can execute this well in the early game, to see Shook be so incredibly active on this Zac pick. It looked so solid for him. And really just, I wonder if Vitality get nervous now, because they've seen that H2K can match them in terms of individual playmaking if they misstep in the laning phase. Maybe they're not quite as confident heading into Game 5 about their ability to take these individual 1v1 outplays, these crazy kind of maneuvers that have won them so many games.
But if we look at what they've done on red side, on Vitality side, when it comes to the bans, like they eliminate Xayah Caitlyn every time from Sheriff side. They didn't do that this game. They thought they had to take the Tahm Kench, so Caitlyn went over to Sheriff. Gave suddenly H2K a chance to get a strong 2v2 bot lane they could win. They can avoid doing that for the next series. And we have seen H2K ban Azir every single time, so they know at least that pick. I don't know if Tahm Kench is going to get banned by H2K now.
I want to see what the adaptations are, because they have one last shot here. But to look more at that game, let's head over to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, guys. This match is going the distance. We are going to game 5 because H2K gets another win on the board and is now on match point. They're both at match point now, and this is where it gets really interesting. Now, guys, the early game from Vitality has been tremendous. throughout the entire series, but not this one. And as we look at the early game highlights from H2K, Joko, is it harder to lose after your Baron being stolen, or is it harder to lose when you're getting smacked around in the early game like this?
I think this game will hurt them a lot with their confidence, because it's a team who actually one of the best in early games, and right now they got smashed. And I'm really happy to see that Shook is playing another champ than Olaf, because he had a pretty good performance, and yeah, I'm really happy to see them.
Yeah, Cold, why was H2K so strong in this early game?
I'm pretty sure they listened to me in the last game, because I mean I told them they can do more, you can pick better champs for the early game, and they did that. And I think a lot of praise should go to especially Seraph and Promiscu, because they were pretty much just 2v2 outplaying the enemy bot lane, and I think they got the bot tower at like 9 minutes 45, and they just took over the game. And I think H2K showed a better ability to snowball the game than Vitality has shown. So I think the next game is gonna be spicy.
Well, ability to snowball the game, this boy, what was I going to say? I don't know. This player here on the screen, Selfie, he snowballed the game out of control as well on the Cassidy. He got a lot of the early kills, even though there was a lot of pressure taken away by the bottom lane. Let's take a look at how it went out of control. And this is the second time we saw it yesterday as well, how a Cassidy, who the last thing you want to do is give him kills early, and it's something you fear in the late game, gets early kills, and it's so hard to come back from that if you're Vitality.
Yeah, League is not funny to play when Kassadin is feed, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, I don't actually think Kassadin got that many kills early on. Like, it was more the fact that the bot lane of H2K were just taking over the game, in my opinion. And then later on, Kassadin just cleaned up the fights. So it looked good on paper being 7-0, but on the other hand, I think the other members of the H2K squad set him up for success.
They did, and as we go into Game 5, H2K now had their first lead in the series at 15 minutes and actually had their largest lead at 15 minutes of the entire spring split, so they are on a high. How does Vitality bounce back from this?
I mean, you kind of need to go back to what worked for you, to be honest. Like, I don't think picking scaling champs like this works for them. They need to have clear conditions how to win in the early game and then use this lead into snowballing game. And that was kind of lacking.
Joko?
Yeah, I agree. Like right now, they seem to not be happy with, especially with this Vlad blind pick. We got punished. And I don't think as well going for the Tahm Kench first pick when Caitlyn was in the picture was not really the greatest idea. And right now, we're having 100% win rate on red side. So maybe Vitality is going to go for it and wins.
And maybe they will, whatever it may be. It is a very explosive series, and it's time to fire up Silver Scrapes because Vitality and H2K are going into Game 5. Meet us back here for that in 3.5. Ta-da-da.
No turret to defend them. 4v2. Shenold, control mini 2 packs. Gonna get pulled back. Shenold is on the way, but I don't know if they can turn this one back. There's just too much damage coming through. Shen is here, but it might not be enough. So is the Scion to flash out. Goes down, trap locked up. Ooh, Sheriff bringing it in. Now the talk comes back. Cassidy in the middle of the fight. This is exactly what they wanted. Nature Max remains untouched, but Spinny J is just so tanky. Decimating smash. 2, 3 sets. This is exactly what they need. Sheriff is knocked back.